Hello, I'm Jess, and welcome to my art studio during the holidays. I spent this week decorating the studio for the holidays, prepping an original for a collector, restocking canvases for the new year, sending out a fun newsletter, and finally painting a festive poinsettia. First things first, I was not convinced that I was going to do any decorating at all this year for the holidays. My partner Russell and I are going up to Iowa for Christmas to spend it with his family, and around Thanksgiving I was thinking, why bother? I could use this time doing something else. However, then something came in that said, why don't you decorate this new space? And to be honest, I kind of felt like my spirit needed it. If there's anything you guys might have figured out about me by now is that I love transforming a space. Transforming a space and then being in that space actually changes my relationship with each moment. And this, after 40 years, is something that I consider sacred and something that I want to create time for. My decorations are a mix of old and new and inherited and purchased, really laden with meaning and pretty lighthearted and not so serious, like this mint M&M gnome guardian that just entered the mix. Most days these days, I find that I really love to spend a little time in deep focus on one task and then move on to another, maybe less focused task. And interestingly, the decorating is the focused task right now because it requires some creative energy to figure out how I want to decorate. And this is something that is blissfully cathartic, which is prepping an original to go to a collector's home. This piece is aptly called Spirit. I really couldn't plan this kind of thing even if I tried. And I created Spirit about a year ago. So essentially, what I am doing is I am painting the sides of the piece. I'll put 2 layers of black acrylic paint. Although this is an oil painting, I use acrylic on the sides just because it dries faster. All right, so let's call a spade a spade. I completely dread doing the lights, and it's so funny because I always remember when my dad had to do the lights on the Christmas tree every year, everyone just stayed away from him because it would inevitably end up in a lot of strong emotions coming from the Christmas tree. And I never understood why, and now I understand why. So understanding the joys of putting Christmas lights on, I think, is a rite of passage of becoming an adult. However, once you have everything lit up, it is so worth it. These are the kind of things where I'm like, I just need to have this all year round. In the midst of this, I received a very exciting package gifted to me by Russell's mother. She gave us some early Christmas money to spend on something that we wanted, and I got these picture frames, and I plan to incorporate them into the studio decorations. So more on that in a little bit. And again, weaving in a little bit of work amongst the decoration. Here I am prepping some images that were selected by a local boutique hotel in Austin. They selected 4 images from my website, and what I'm doing is I'm sizing them and I'm putting a watermark on them, and they are going to print them at size and just see how they look in the space, and then get back to me and let me know which ones they want to move forward with. As I mentioned, a lot of my decorations are inherited, which also makes the decorating really special. I grew up overseas until I was 16. I moved to the US when I was 16. When I was 2, I moved to Germany. My brother was born in Munich, and my grandma came over to visit for his birth. And while she was there, she bought this German Christmas pyramid. So I inherited this from her when she passed away, and I just think that this is so special. My family is in part German, and my parents have a Christmas pyramid as well, and this is something that just really recalls my childhood. Today is a Monday. We were in the weekend for the last 2 days, which kind of gave me more permission to focus on decorating. I have decided to sell some of these studies that I do. This study group was really popular and is still sold in many places. And the originals are these tiny little things, and some of them were reproduced really large, as you see here, and then some of them were kept really sweet and tiny and precious. So I am just laying these out on the floor so I can photograph them to list on my website and create a newsletter. And as I mentioned, I am framing all of these old black and white photos of all of the women in my family. And I am a person who is just really connected to all things nostalgic and ancestral. A fun fact is that I am a long time Zen practitioner. The last part of my Dharma name means ancestor heart. And so the idea is the first part of the name is what you are now, which is translated as sincere moon. And the last part is where your teacher thinks that you should be headed, ancestor heart. So I have these gorgeous photos all the way up until my great grandmother. And I kind of think of these as bringing their spirit into the studio and honoring what came before as part of the now. I almost, just like the gnome, think of these as guardians in a way. The next morning, I was checking the website of Michael's, and that's usually where I get my canvases from because they are so cost effective. So I get the highest level of Michael's canvas in a 1.5 inch depth. And sometimes they have really wonderful sales. So I offhandedly checked their website, and they were having a buy one, get two free. And that is just way too good to pass up. So I decided to fully stock up, probably not just for next year, but also for years to come. I did a huge canvas stocking over the pandemic and I'm almost out. So perfect timing. I was so nerdily excited about this. And this is also going to come in handy for my plans next year, which is to approach galleries. And it was a very full-on computer day for the rest of the day. I try not to have full days at the computer, but sometimes you just gotta get stuff done. So I was fulfilling a few orders. I use FrameBridge for my framed prints that I sell on my website and G-Clay Today for my unframed prints that I sell on Etsy. And then I got down to business and in total focus mode, and I listed all of these studies on my website, and that felt pretty awesome. I felt very accomplished. I had already put together the newsletter that was featuring these studies, and so I just looked over that one more time before sending it off. The final thing that I'm doing in this video is a painting of one of these gorgeous velvety red poinsettias. I can't help myself. They are just so beautiful. So I'm using gouache for the poinsettia. I have not painted with my HOLBEIN gouache in a very long time. And I do love it so. It is so velvety, and that's why I wanted to use it for the poinsettia, because I thought that it matched the red of the leaves perfectly. Some of the leaves I used just sort of true gouache technique, so a little bit thicker and more opaque, and then some of them I used the gouache a little bit more like a watercolor, so a little bit more transparent and with a gradation, and I kind of like that variety. I didn't do a double layer on anything, and that's simply because I wanted to not spend too much time on this. The way that I can do these kind of sketches and paintings is if I just keep them really quick and really simple and try to finish them in one sitting. So voila, here is the lovely poinsettia. And thank you so much for tuning in to the videos that I've been creating this year. I've really enjoyed getting back into video making and kind of in a new way. And I hope that you have enjoyed it too. This will probably be the last one of the year. So wishing you all happy, joyful holidays and a very happy new year.